Hi, and welcome to the Paisley Blues Fest Blues for Youth Drum Workshop. In this first section of the video, I'd like to share with you some things that I like to do when I'm warming up before a show or incorporating into my everyday practicing. So these are going to be things like sticking exercises, which will hopefully lead to some new fill ideas or maybe some new grooves that you can incorporate into your music. So grab a pair of sticks and a practice pad or any kind of a surface really, and me and my dog are going to show you some stuff. Okay, so now that me and my trusty co-pilot are in place and ready to go, let's get started. So sometimes people say to me, "Hey Mike, all-knowing master of the universe, I want to play some drums. I don't have to warm up or anything, do I?" And to that I say, why yes. Yes, you should. Because what warming up helps you do is focus in on all of these fundamental building blocks that goes into everything you do as a drummer. And it helps you to boil it down to its most basic form. Anytime you hear or see a drummer and you think to yourself, wow, how do they do that? A lot of the times when you boil it down to its most simple pattern, you realize that, wow, this makes a lot more sense. It's knowing these fundamental building blocks. A lot of us look at it as vocabulary. If you want to speak really fluently and clearly, knowing the right way to say it is such a huge part of the battle. So, you could also look at it as you're building a house. Well, you need the right tools for the job. And the better tools you have, the easier the job's going to be. And you're going to come out with just a beautiful, beautiful thing. So, wait a minute, I need a practice pad. Where did I put that? Oh, all right, there you have it. So, let's grab our sticks. Let's get started. So we're just going to start with our basic single stroke roll. Single strokes are everywhere. Whether you're rolling on your snare, whether you're going around your toms, whether you're keeping time on your hi-hat. Single strokes, super, super important. Now, you might say, oh, well, that's easy. All it is right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Now, no problem. But you can take it a step further and really focus on your technique. Now, a lot of this is going to come from how you grip your stick. Now, it's super important. You want a loose grip. You want to be able to let the stick do some of the work. If you're gripping tight and you're putting all your effort into slamming it, right? I give you half an hour before you're sweating and you're going, I can't play anymore, right? The more technique you have, the easier you're making it on yourself. You're letting the stick do the work. So you notice I am not going very high off the skin. A huge part, one thing that I've learned is when I first started, I used to be all arms. I used to, everything was huge. No problem with that. But I encourage you to start by picking a beginning point and then return to it. You're going to find that your playing is just going to be a lot easier on you. Keeping your movements, you know, not necessarily small, but the closer you are to the things that you're hitting, the less hang time you have. Starting your strike from way up here, you got all this time before it actually hits, right? So this comes to actually setting your kit up in a way that is ergonomic for your body, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. But one thing that really helped me is setting your kit up to accommodate your body. So when I want to go around the toms, it's just natural. Basically, you want like just off center. I like to shoot for just above center with the tip of your stick. So wherever your arm naturally wants to go, that is where you should position your drum. I am a tall and lanky guy. When I drop my arm to hit my floor tom, my stick's way over here. I tend to have my floor toms a little bit further out than maybe a lot of people, because I'm tall, lanky. I want my arm to just naturally drop right in the sweet spot of the surface that I'm hitting. So, and I also have it in a way that I can effortlessly move. I have a good starting point. I'm not starting from way up here. You're just adding more time. If you want to be tight on the beat, which is another thing we're going to get to, thinking about the count and being tight on the beat, the less hang time you have, the easier it's going to be for you. So, one tool that I like to use it's called Metro Timer. You can find it on any smartphone. It's an app, it's free. What it is it's a metronome. So I use this for practicing or for recording, or if, you know, in the band, if we're writing a new song and we want to agree on, you know, what kind of tempo or feel we want, this thing is invaluable. You can tap the tempo. How fast do you want it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom, boom, boom. Right? So now you got a little bit of a guide. So single strokes, no problem. But now that you have a solid metronome to think about, now you can start kind of working with it. You can kind of just try and make that click disappear. So now you're taking something relatively simple, but you're challenging yourself with it, and it's going to go a long way for your overall drumming. Making that click disappear, getting used to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we've got a quarter note click going. So let's think of it in eighth notes. So now we got the downbeat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add the offbeat to it. So eighth notes go in 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and no problem. So now let's take that beat and divide it by 4. So we got 4 groups of 4 equals 16, 16th notes. 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda. 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda, 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda, 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda, 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda. No problem. Now, loose grip. You notice my arms are barely moving. I'm letting the stick do the work. One thing to think about is there's different approaches to this. I call this the jackhammer, right? Basically, this is just a way to kind of think of stick technique. One way to think of it, anyway. I'm holding on to the bottom of the stick. You notice how much of the butt end I got there. So I'm not way down here. I'm not way up here. I like the butt of the stick to just go past the heel of my hand. I'm holding it with my third and fourth fingers, so my ring finger, pinky finger. My thumb and forefinger are kind of loose. And what I'm doing is I'm bouncing it between my thumb and my first finger. And you're getting this kind of jackhammer kind of motion, right? I realize that when I hit my snare, quite often, nowadays it's without even thinking about it, I'm using this technique, and I found that the tone, the way the skin, or the way the stick reacts with the skin, it really has a nice relationship, stick to skin, because you're not making this really hard where there's no give. It's like, you know, hitting a brick wall, whereas if you hit something with a little more give, like a pillow, that feels not as bad as running into a brick wall, right? I find that my strikes are more uniform, and actually it just feels good to do it that way too. Over on the floor tom, if you want a big boom, works quite nicely. Alternatively, you have a few different grips to choose from. You have matched grip. So now your thumb and first finger are have a little more role to play. When you hold your stick in matched grip, you have this little space between your thumb and first finger. That's allowing a little bit of movement there. Again, super loose grip. If you're getting used to it and you're dropping your sticks, that's okay, because it means your grip is loose. You just got to find that sweet spot so you don't drop them. I still drop them till this day. It never goes away. So, yeah, matched grip, no problem. You also have French grip with your thumbs up. Typically, Tiffany might use the French grip. That's going to give you a little bit of a different feel, a little bit of a different sound, I find. Each way you grip has a little bit of a different thing going on with it. Thumbs up, no problem. Matched grip, where your hands are slightly to the side. Right? You sometimes see people using traditional grip, where I'm holding, I have it going behind my thumb, straight through between, so if you do the Star Trek Vulcan thing, right? Traditional grip. So there's a whole different set of techniques with the traditional grip. For today, we're just going to kind of use the matched grip and the French grip, and we're going to go through some stuff. So, single stroke, no problem. Double strokes, right, left, right, left, left. No problem again, right? Singles, doubles. Singles, doubles, right? Now, okay, so you got the fundamental building block, right, left, left, right, left. Now it's time to challenge yourself again. You sometimes see people doing really fast drum rolls, stuff like that. I challenge you to practice your doubles into a pillow or something that doesn't have a lot of bounce. I used to do this all the time. I used to practice my doubles into a pillow because there's virtually no bounce. Even doing it on your leg has a little less bounce than your snare drum. That's really going to get your wrists happening. And then when you do come onto a surface with a little bit of bounce, then you're going to find, whoa, that's insane, right? So in order to get a little bit more speed with your doubles, I challenge you to let it bounce twice and then stop it. Right? So what's happening there is I'm holding it in my thumb and first finger. Again, I want that loose grip because I want the stick to do some of the work, right? I want it to be able to bounce freely without too much arm, right? And these fingers here are more of just a guide, so I'm kind of letting them off for when I'm letting it bounce, and then when I want it to stop, I'm kind of snapping it up into place. Open, closed, open, closed, open, closed, open, closed. With your left hand. Eventually, once you have that double strike, now if you notice my arms are kind of moving in a single stroke motion, right? So right, left, right, left, right, left, right. So now that we've kind of got these double bounce happening, and we're treating these double bounces as if it's a single stroke, now you can kind of right, left, right, left, right, left, start picking up the speed a little bit. And eventually, right, left, 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 right, you have double bounce. The tighter you squeeze with your thumb and forefinger, the tighter the roll. So you notice the bounces now are closer together. I'm going to loosen off a little bit, and now they're open. So close, open, close, open. So you got a buzz roll. I'm going to pinch it really tight. They're so close together, that's the buzz. It's a thick buzz. And open it up, you got a more open roll. So, these are two of the most important things in drumming. Your single stroke, your double stroke. From there, we start mixing them up a little bit, right? So this is where the magic happens, because I was always taught that rudiments, sticking exercises, were just drills, basically. When I first started learning, my teacher gave me a snare drum and said, this is what you will be using. Once you've done these first things, then I'll start getting you onto the drum kit, right? Whereas I am of philosophy like, mama let him play. Mama let the boy play some rock and roll, right? It's a lot of fun. But, So now here's where these rudiments translate into fills or grooves or all kinds of different stuff. You can take any rudiment and use your right hand on a cymbal and your left hand on the snare. So let's take, for instance, the next thing I want to talk about is the paradiddle. A lot of you are probably familiar with the paradiddle. It's a combination of single strokes and double strokes. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. So you're leading with your right, leading with your left. Let's take that concept, move it up to the bell of your ride, say. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Now you notice that instead of your straight eighth note thing that you might be kind of used to doing on your hi-hat, right? Now you have this other pattern that you can kind of switch it up a little bit. This is where the real cool stuff happens. Now it's time to fill. Now you're grooving away. Oh, what am I going to do? Well, now you have this fundamental building pattern. Right? You know, how you choose to use them becomes your voice. I mean, there's a lot of common ones out there, but you know, where when you listen to somebody that's kind of making their own interpretation of these things is pretty awesome. Let's try a paradiddle that starts on the 6th beat. So first we went right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Now this pattern is going to go right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. So still a paradiddle, just a slightly different starting point and end point. Right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, 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 right, left, right, right, left. Again, now you notice the accenting, and when I say accenting, the way you choose to switch up the pattern on your bell of the ride. Again, now you have this span of time that you're going ding 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 ding. You could read it in sheet music. 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. But taking this simplest form, rudiment, lefts and rights, gives you this whole other understanding, right? So try and put them together. So the first paradiddle, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And the second paradiddle, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. Now say you want to do a little something on your ride cymbal. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, left. Right? Now you're weaving in and out of you know, you're really getting a full understanding of the divisions of the beat. You know, taking a 1, 2, 3, 4. It's grooves. It's fills. I encourage you to go to your local music store, or these days, I guess, look it up online. Get a sticking exercise book, and in there you're going to see a whole bunch of different patterns, rights and lefts, paradiddles, you know, all kinds of stuff. And go through them all. Anytime you see a right hand, play your hi-hat and your kick drum at the same time. So anytime there's a right, so let's say single stroke roll, right, and left's on your snare drum. Right, left, right, left, right? You go through them all, like, you go through a whole bunch of them like that. Your world is going to explode with all these new ideas because it's all kinds of stuff, like kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, snare. Move your right hand down to the floor tom. Some of them you might end up doing some Latin and some Caribbean kind of feeling stuff. You might have right, left, right, left, right, left. Now you got all these possibilities. Simplest form, just rights and lefts. You get to know them. Like that's where all the magic happens. And now you can kind of put your own voice to them, use them in your own way. It's really, really, really cool. Singles, doubles, paradiddles. I want to leave you with one more before we head over to the drum kit. This is one that I wish that I had learned a long time ago, because I was already years into playing before I really started to familiarize myself with this one. So this one is a grouping of 6. So we're thinking of it in triplets. Triplets are groupings of 3 notes. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Blues music. In blues music, there's a lot of really great blues songs that have a swung feel to it. Dun, da, 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 da. We're thinking of that in groups of 3. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. In that kind of a situation, maybe you might want to come up with some fill ideas using the groupings of 3. So this is one thing that I have really it's really helped me a lot in as far as fills, as far as the ending of the song where you're going wow, drummers going nuts, guitar players going nuts, explosions going off, wow, yeah, right? Now's your time to just go to town, right? So here's a really cool thing. Again, single strokes, double strokes. We're going to start with a single stroke, right, left, and follow it with a double stroke. Right, left, left. So, groups of 3. Right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, left, 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 right, left, left. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. When we head over to the kit, I'm going to show you how to put these things into action. But for now, fundamental thing, snare drum, practice pad. Try and get it up to speed. We talked about the double, letting it bounce twice. Add a couple single strokes at the beginning. One thing about the practice pad, just before we go, because we want to get to some full grooves, right? But before we go, using a practice pad, also a good idea to use your imagination. It doesn't have to just be a snare drum. You can picture your toms in the mix when you're working this stuff out. So that's that 6th stroke that I just showed you. Left, right becomes high tom, floor tom, left, right, and then left, right on your snare. Left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, left, stroke on your crashes. Ba ba snare 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 snare. Ba ba snare 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 snare. Da 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 da. Really cool stuff. All right, let's head over to the kit. All right, here we are. How's it going, everybody? So as you can see, I am safely social distanced from my drums, from my show kit that I take around to the festivals and theaters and clubs and all that. So today I'll be using my home studio practice kit set of Roland TD11s, which work just fine too. Believe it or not, this mesh skin actually kind of feels like a snare a little bit. And if you live in an apartment like I do, you got a little volume knob there for for the neighbors to be a little more friendly to you. So that's pretty cool. So I usually use a set of Kenwood drums. So they're Canadian made. They're made out of Keller wood, and they were custom. I got them from a friend of mine, Mark Marioche, who's an incredible drummer, and also a locally made snare drum in Chatsworth, Ontario, made out of butternut. It's a 13-inch, and I just love it. But it's been a couple months since I've been able to give them a hug. But yeah, we're all doing okay, so no worries there. Before we get started on some grooves here, I just want to go over a little bit about the overall sound of your drum kit. Now, I'm sure many of you have drums at home. Here's the thing. I encourage you to save up $100. If you haven't done this in a while, treat yourself to a new set of skins. Because if you haven't done that in a while, and then you do, you're going to realize, wow, what a difference a new set of skins makes on your drums. Especially if you do some research into the right skin for what you want. There's all kinds of different types of skins, depending on what kind of thing you're going for. Myself personally, I use Evans 2-ply clear heads on my toms, and in addition to that, I use a plastic O-ring. So the 2-ply Evans G2 clear heads on my toms with the O-rings, I find that they're really, really controlled. When I hit them, they just sound beautiful. Really, really nice. You're not battling with crazy overtones and stuff like that. On my snare is a 13-inch, but commonly they're 14-inch. I use a 1-ply dry head. Now, what that is, so it's also Evans. So a dry head has additional little holes in it that kind of take out some excess overtones and stuff like that. I found that I've got it sounding like a glove, really uniform when I strike it, and I can't say enough good things about it. So it took me a while to come up with those certain things. I was using clear heads, or coated heads for quite a while, which are great too. But this particular
size skins I find helps me with my voice, my drumming voice, and it fits in really well with the style of music I play, kind of hard rock and blues stuff, right? So there's that. Tuning your drums is a whole other thing. If you would like some tips and advice on tuning your drums, leave a comment in this video, or you could find me on Facebook or Instagram, Mike Weir, or through the MacKenzie Blues Band, or through any of the projects that I play with, Rob Elder Trio, Dirty Mac, MacKenzie Blues Band. I play in a rock band called Rise Architect. Playing a country band with Scott Almond. I have all kinds of stuff on the go. When you put a lot of work into it, you end up meeting a lot of people, and you get to be really good friends. And it's hard not to play with somebody when you just really enjoy spending time with them, and you really enjoy making music with them. All right, so here we go. So we're here at the drum kit. We're going to do some blues stuff. We're going to do some just overall general grooves that you can do with rudiments. So before we get to the blues stuff, let's just start back with some of the rudimentary things we did. So first we did the single stroke roll. So I mentioned before that not only are those rudiments drills, but they also translate into fills and grooves. And when I said before, I encourage you to pick up a sticking exercise book and go through any one of them and use your right hand on your hi-hat, and anytime you see a right hand, kick drum and hi-hat. Left hand's on the snare. So let's try single stroke roll. Right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. No problem, right? Cool. So, the other thing is, it's not always about what you're playing, it's how you play it. Just that one simple thing, right, left, right, left. Let's make it a little bit funky. Let's mention before about the groupings of 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Now we're going to have a little bit of a snappy swing. Right, now you're kind of getting a little bit of feel. No problem. Let's take the same concept, speed it up a little bit. Could be considered gospel. Oh, if I'm going when life is over, I'll fly away. Right? There you go. Simple thing. You got all kinds of different stuff you can do with it. Let's speed it up even more. Now you got a medal or a polka. Right? Double stroke rolls. You can think of it as an early rock and roll beat. Again, applies to blues. You know, rock and roll and blues are tight, right? You got rock and roll. Let's say, if you're familiar with the band The Offspring. all kinds of stuff. Fills. Let's move it over to the ride cymbal here. So right hand on the ride cymbal. Same concept. We're just going to go twice. Snare. Tom 1. Tom 2. Tom 3. Right? No problem. Paradiddles. Same idea. Oop, there's my sidekick snooping around over there. Oop. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. The inverted paradiddle we talked about. Right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left. Right? One of the projects I play in Grey Road 1, we do a song called Shaky Ground, which is super funky. Good opportunity to try that. So the group kind of goes. Dun, dun. It's a little variation of the pattern, so it could be a fill. Let's try same thing. Now we're going to use our floor tom in the same way we use our hi-hat. Right's on the floor tom and kick. Right, left. So we're going kick and floor tom, left on your high tom. So right, left, right, right. Left, right, left, left. So it's going back to the first paradiddle there. Right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. Right. Now you got kind of a cool breakdown. Maybe there's a song with a breakdown in it, and you want to move over to the toms, right? Bring the dynamic down. Right. Now you got this other tom. You can throw that in there. Cool stuff, right? Let's take the 6-stroke that we talked about earlier. My dog is wanting some attention down here. It's okay. You're okay. Okay. So, okay. Down here. There. You just hang out here. So the 6-stroke, a little bit trickier to do with the dog in your lap. So, what we mentioned before, left, right. So we're going to go left hand on your high tom, right on your floor tom, and then left, left, right, right. Left, right, left, left, right, right, 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 right. Are you still paying attention, or is the dog distracting you? It's okay. Left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right, left, left, right, right, left, right. stuff. Up to the cymbals. Right? Cool stuff. Switching it, leading with your right hand. Right, left, left, right, right, left, right. Or adding another right hand to the beginning of it anyway. This is a really cool, just short fill. So right, left, left, right, right, left, right. Kick. There you have it. So now, let's get to the blues section. So now we've done all kinds of warming up, a lot of just general focusing on the fundamental building blocks of how to just open yourself up to all kinds of new ideas through rudiments, through those fundamental building blocks on which all drumming is built, right? All right, so let's get to some blues. So I mentioned before, often blues is thought of in groups of three. There's all kinds of different styles. You might get some funky blues. You might get some straight rockin' blues. The thrill is gone, right? Classic B.B. King. You might take kind of more of a straight rock beat. The thrill is gone. So that's one approach. Say you're in the situation where it's time to try a shuffle out. So shuffles are really recognizable classic blues rhythms, and there's different ways to play it. A good way to start is let's take something like Sweet Home Chicago, classic. Mama, baby, don't you want me to go? Right? If you kind of think of that, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Let's take a 4 on the floor. So 4 on the floor meaning, let's say ride and kick, and then all 3. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. You're taking something pretty straightforward, but it's how you think, how you're counting, that's helping you give it that feel, that kind of 1, 2, 3, come on, baby, don't you want to go? Right? A really super classic thing to add to blues shuffle is, as far as fills go, so still taking those ideas of groups of 3 triplets, floor tom and snare, still doing quarters on the kick though. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. to add a little extra, start quiet and raise the volume. Right? Classic. So now let's take it a step further. Let's say, speaking of Chicago, let's try Chicago show. Now, you know that classic blues thing, you hear it all the time. Dun, 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 dun. So what we're doing there is the first and the last of the group of triplets. So 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. I'm going to add my kick to that. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So that's what your hands are going to be doing. Ride cymbal, snare drum. Okay. Now, here's the thing that really makes it. We want to play the first 2 quietly, and on the 2, so 1 triplet, 2 triplet, and the 4, 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. We want to accent our snare. So we're going to do the first 2 quiet, loud. So 1, loud, 1, loud, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick, 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 kick. Your hands are just doing the same thing. Your kick drums just keeping the 1, 2, 3, 4. That's the kind of stuff people like to get up and dance to, right? 'Cause you can't help but. Right? No problem. So you're playing something upbeat. You know, probably going to do just fine with that kind of thing. Now, if you want to go a little more on the rock side of the blues, let's say ZZ Top. Everybody knows ZZ Top, right? Texas, no problem. They commonly gravitate towards this kind of a thing. So what we're going to do is we're still thinking in those triplets. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. Kick, 2 kick, snare, 2 kick, 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 snare. Hi-hat myself. Kick, kick, hat, kick, snare, hat, kick, kick, hat, kick, snare, hat, kick. Jesus done left Chicago and is bound for New Orleans. Right? If that's a little bit tricky for you, just start with the kick on the first beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next step is to add another kick just before the snare's popping up. Da, 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 ba, right? That could be used in slow blues, just as we were. Or it's easy top classic Lagrange. G4. Right? Totally up to you. It's all about learning the basic, as I said before, basic fundamental pattern and working it out. Raising the roof, so to speak. So, like, you know, often you'll kind of have a ceiling where it's the top tempo that you can get it. You know, it's like, oh, I can't get it any faster. You end up making this face. That face is a good thing because it means that you are pushing your ceiling higher. The more you make that face, soon it'll go away. And you push it even faster. And then that face will go away again. And then you just continue to go. You want to be prepared for any situation. So when I was talking earlier about having the tools for the job, who knows? You may not ever need to use your doubles this fast, right? But it's a good thing to be able to, because who knows? Maybe you will. You want to be prepared for anything that comes at you. Learning those rudiments and continuing every day. I work on them every day, even when I'm walking down the street. You know, playing on my knees or in the car all the time, and I think it drives my dog crazy. Yeah, so it's really cool stuff. So let us look at some more grooves. Now, in my teaching, a common thing that seems to be something that's a little on the tricky side when you're first starting it, and that is when it comes time to put your kick drum in between hi-hats. So sometimes you're in this situation. Right? So there's all kinds of kick drums going in between. You have this natural reflex that your hi-hat wants to go at the same time as your kick all the time. You run into this kind of thing. Right? The following exercise is a really good way to work towards independence over your four limbs. And part of gaining independence, when I say you want to be prepared for any situation, typically as drummers, we might pick an instrument to match up with, because that's how you're going to get that tight sound as a band. Maybe it might be the bass player doing a particular rhythm. Maybe you want your kick to right? Or it could be a syllable of that the singer's singing. So that's one thing I really like to do, is focus on the words and the melody. And if there's a line that is really impactful, I might want to use nuances of the rhythm of the words. You know, My baby just left me. My baby just left me. Right? You know, all kinds of different things to think about. Having the independence in order to do that when the time comes, super important. So I wanted to share with you, with the kids when I'm teaching, I call it the pineapple pizza. I use a lot of food references, and I end up getting really hungry, but that's okay. So, kick and hi-hat is pine. Your hi-hat by itself is ap. Your kick drum is o. Pine, apple. Pine, apple. And then pizza. Peats. So that's your hi-hat and snare on P. And on za. Kick drum and hi-hat. Pine, apple, pizza. Pine, apple, pizza. Pine, apple, pizza. Pine, apple, pizza. Being really careful not to let your hi-hat follow that rogue drum, or that rogue kick drum. And at first, it's going to be like, oh, every time that happens, it's going to be, I'm not going to lie, a little bit frustrating at first. But when you're getting frustrated, it means that you're practicing the right thing. Here's another big point. The difference between practicing and playing. Now, it's really important to differentiate the two, because if what you're doing is coming easy, or if basically if what you're doing sounds good, then you're not practicing anymore. You're playing it. Right? So, of course, you need a lot of playing time, right? Because it makes you feel good. It makes, you know, it's just really awesome. But you also have to make sure you maintain the practice time, right? As frustrating as it is, the more frustrating you're getting, the better you're getting. Because when you work something through when you work it through the frustration, and you wake up one morning and you go, oh, I got it, right? Now you just became a better player, because you're understanding and you're training your body to do things that they weren't able to do before. And so it's really, really important to make sure you're setting time for practice and time for playing. So pick something that's a little out of your comfort zone and go for it, and hatch it out, and don't give up. You know, and when you do get it, it is a really, really amazing feeling. So, to this day, I've been playing for over 25 years. There's always more to learn, and I'm constantly trying to challenge myself with new things. I mean, the whole world of Latin music, it's crazy. Right? It's nuts. Like, you're doing 4 different patterns at the same time. You know, in order to get that, I had to. What's the ride doing by itself? E and 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. Oh, what's the snare doing? Oh, and the kick. Go, 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 go. So basically, I had to learn each individual pattern, pick 2 of them, figure out how to put them together. And then once I've kind of got them all sorted, then I've, kind of take a deep breath and go, train wreck. All right, well, let's try it again. Almost got train wreck. All right, well, let's try it again. Let's keep trying. One morning I woke up and I was after a night of just complete frustration, and I sat down at my kit in the morning, and it all came together. It's like something sleep does, where it kind of organizes information after you work so hard and got frustrated. One morning you wake up and everything just clicks. I can't explain it. But yeah, so hopefully this has been informative for you guys, and please leave a comment. Please get in touch if you need any additional advice, tuning, gear, information on, I teach private lessons. If anybody, I'm doing it online right now with the social distancing. I like to make myself available, and try and bring music to the people, because it's good for your heart, it's good for your soul, and it's good for the world. Really, it's a gift, and I believe that everybody has the gift, and I think it's important for us to share it. So, toodaloo.